The email glowed on my screen like a ghost from the past, each word striking me with the force of a hammer. Ms. Morgan, your expertise is urgently needed to save Townsend Industries. My name is Viviana, and 16 years ago, I stood in my parents' pristine living room, trembling as I told them I was pregnant. I was 18, terrified, and desperate for their support. Instead, I got a cold stare from my mother and 5 words that changed everything. Get out of this house. Viv, your 2 p.m. is here. Felicity's voice crackled through the intercom, yanking me back to the present. I minimized the email and straightened my blazer, pushing away memories I'd rather forget. Send them in, I replied, my voice steady despite the tremors in my chest. The door opened, and Aaron Smith walked in, his familiar face a reminder of everything I'd left behind. It's been a while, Viviana. 16 years, give or take a few months. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. I assume you're here about the email? He nodded, settling into the leather seat. They don't know it's you. They think they're reaching out to Elysia Morgan, the CEO of Phoenix Enterprises. I couldn't help but laugh. The irony isn't lost on me, Aaron. The parents who threw me out now need my help to save their precious company. They're desperate, Viv. The company's bleeding money, and your father's health isn't what it used to be. I stood up, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Do you remember the night I left? It was raining, just like today. I remember. I tried to reason with them. Fat lot of good that did. I turned back to face him. Felicity was the only one who helped me. She gave me a couch to sleep on, helped me find work. While I was 7 months pregnant, working 2 jobs and taking online classes, where were they? Aaron leaned forward. They made mistakes, horrible ones, but this could be your chance to... To what? Get revenge? Show them how well I did without them? I interrupted, my voice sharper than intended. The intercom buzzed again. Mom? Sophia's voice filled the room. I finished that market analysis you wanted. Can I come in? My heart softened instantly. Come in, sweetheart. As the story develops, if you're enjoying it, consider subscribing for a new one each day, where justice always finds its way. Back to our unfolding situation. The door opened, and my daughter walked in, her tablet in hand. At 16, she was everything I could have hoped for. Brilliant, kind, and stronger than I ever was. She stopped short when she saw Aaron. Uncle Aaron? Her face lit up. She hadn't seen him since she was 12, when he'd secretly helped us with some legal work. Look at you, all grown up, Aaron smiled, standing to hug her. You look just like your mum at your age. Except smarter, I added, watching them with a mix of pride and pain. This was what family should look like. Unconditional love, not judgment and rejection. Sophia's eyes darted between us. What's going on? I hesitated, but she deserved the truth. Your grandparents' company is in trouble. They've reached out to Phoenix Enterprises for help. But they don't know it's you. Her quick mind connected the dots instantly. No, they think they're dealing with Elysia Morgan. Sophia sat on the edge of my desk, her expression thoughtful. Are you going to help them? The question hung in the air, heavy with 16 years of hurt, anger, and unspoken words. I looked at the email again, then at the photos on my desk, Sophia's first day of school, her science fair victory, her recent debate team win. All moments my parents had missed because of their pride. Your mother has built something remarkable here, Aaron said quietly. Phoenix Enterprises is exactly what Townsend Industries needs. The question is whether the past should determine the future. I reached for my phone, pulling up the contact I'd never deleted but never used. My finger hovered over my brother Reed's number. Mom, Sophia said softly. Sometimes the best revenge is showing people exactly what they threw away. I looked at my daughter, seeing in her face all the wisdom I'd fought so hard to instill. She was right, of course. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about proving something, not to them, but to myself. Aaron, I said, my decision made. Set up the meeting. But let's keep playing this game a little longer. I want to see their faces when they realize exactly who Elysia Morgan is. He nodded, understanding the weight of what I was proposing. I'll arrange everything. As he left, Sophia hugged me tight. I'm proud of you, Mum. I held her close, remembering the scared teenager I'd once been, now replaced by the woman I'd become. I love you, sweetheart. You're the best decision I ever made. The rain continued to fall outside my office window, but this time I wasn't the one getting wet. This time, I was the one with the power to either shelter or storm. The boardroom of Townsend Industries felt smaller than I remembered, maybe because the last time I'd been here, I was looking up at these mahogany walls from a child's height. Now, dressed in a crisp black suit as Alicia Morgan, I commanded the space. Ms. Morgan, thank you for coming. My father's voice was thinner than I remembered, his once commanding presence diminished by age and worry. He didn't recognize me behind my sleek bob cut and designer glasses. Amazing what 16 years and success can do to change a person. The pleasure is mine, Mr. Townsend. I kept my voice deliberately lower, smoother than my natural tone. Your company's situation intrigues me. My mother sat beside him, her spine rigid as ever, but new lines creased her face. Reed, my brother, stood by the window, pretending to study the cityscape while stealing glances at me. We've reviewed your proposal, my father continued, sliding a folder across the table. Your reputation precedes you. Phoenix Enterprises has an impressive track record of turning companies around. I opened the folder, though I'd memorized every detail of their failing business. Your numbers are concerning. The market shifted 5 years ago, but your strategies remained stagnant. We maintain traditional values, my mother interjected, her voice sharp. Our customers appreciate consistency. I couldn't help but smile. Your dropping sales suggest otherwise. Your competitors are embracing digital transformation while you're still operating like it's 1995. Reed finally turned from the window. She's right, Mom. I've been saying this for years. And I suppose you think you can save us? My mother's tone dripped with the same condescension I remembered from my teenage years. Actually, I removed my glasses, letting them see me clearly for the first time. I know I can, because I've done it before, starting with nothing but determination and a newborn daughter. The silence that followed was deafening. My father's face drained of color. My mother's hand flew to her throat. Reed's sharp intake of breath was the only sound in the room. Viviana, my father whispered. Surprise. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. Alicia Morgan is my professional alias. Phoenix Enterprises is my company. And yes, I built it from scratch while raising the grandchild you never wanted to meet. My mother stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. This is absurd. Aaron, did you know about this? Aaron, who'd been quietly observing from the corner, stepped forward. I did, and I encouraged it. You need her help, Violet. Your pride has cost you enough already. How dare you, my mother began, but Reed cut her off. Stop it, Mum. His voice was stronger than I'd ever heard it. Look at what Viviana's accomplished. While you were pretending she didn't exist, she was building an empire. Maybe it's time we admitted we were wrong. I pulled out my tablet, projecting their company's financials onto the wall. You're 3 months from bankruptcy. Your choice is simple. Accept my help and my terms, or watch everything you've built crumble. Your terms? My father asked, finding his voice. Complete restructuring, digital transformation, and... I paused, meeting each of their eyes. You'll work with my daughter. She's designed an innovative marketing strategy that could save this company. A teenager? My mother scoffed. A teenager who's already completed her business degree online and runs our youth market division, I corrected. She's everything you feared I couldn't become when you threw me out. Reed moved to sit beside me, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed. I've reviewed her proposals, Mum. They're brilliant. We'd be idiots not to accept. My father reached for my mother's hand, squeezing it gently. We don't have a choice, Violet. I stood, gathering my things. You have 24 hours to decide. Oh, and one more thing. I pulled out a photo of Sophia and placed it on the table. This is your granddaughter, the one you've never met. She's willing to help save your company, despite knowing exactly how you treated her mother. Think about that while you make your decision. As I turned to leave, Reed caught up with me at the door. Viv, wait, can we talk? Tomorrow, Reed, after they decide. I paused, looking back at our parents. 16 years ago, you made me feel worthless. Now I'm worth more than your entire company. Funny how life works out, isn't it? The walk to my car was triumphant, but my hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. I pulled out my phone and dialed Felicity. How'd it go? She asked immediately. Exactly as planned. You should have seen their faces. Are you okay? I started the engine, watching through the windshield as Reed argued with our parents in the boardroom window above. I don't know, but for the first time since that night, I feel like I'm in control. Come over for dinner, Felicity insisted. Sophia's already here, helping me cook. We'll celebrate Phase 1 of Operation Karma. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Save me some wine. I have a feeling I'm going to need it. As I drove away from Townsend Industries, I couldn't help but think about tomorrow. Would they swallow their pride and accept my help, or would they let their empire fall? Either way, I'd already won. The next morning, I arrived early at Townsend Industries, walking through familiar corridors that now felt like a museum of my past. Employees hurried past, their worried whispers echoing off the walls. Everyone knew the company was in trouble, but no one knew just how deep it ran. I didn't think you'd come back. Reed's voice startled me. He was leaning against the wall near our father's old office, looking exhausted. Technically, I never left. You all did that for me. I adjusted my blazer. Have they made their decision? They were up all night arguing about it. He fell into step beside me. Mum kept saying it was a trick, that you're here for revenge. Dad, he just kept staring at Sophia's photo. We stopped at the break room, and Reed poured us both coffee. He still remembered how I took mine. Black with 2 sugars, he said, handing me a cup. Some things don't change. Some things do. I took a sip, like you finally standing up to them yesterday. He slumped into a chair. I've wanted to for years. Ever since that night, actually. I should have defended you then. You were 19, Reed. They would have thrown you out too. Maybe that would have been better than watching them destroy everything good about this place. He pulled out a tablet, showing me internal reports. Look at this. Dad's been cooking the books for months, trying to hide how bad things are. The ethical standards you and I grew up with. Gone. I scrolled through the documents, my stomach turning. This is worse than I thought. They're one audit away from criminal charges. I know. Reed ran his hands through his hair. That's why I convinced them to accept your help. They agreed this morning, with conditions. Of course they did. I set down my coffee. Let me guess, they want to maintain control. They want to meet Sophia first, before anything else happens. The protective mother in me bristled. Absolutely not. They lost that right 16 years ago. Viv, please. Reed touched my arm. They're trying. In their own stubborn, prideful way, but they're trying. Mom actually cried last night looking at her picture. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Sophia. On my way up, ready to meet the grandparents. What? I spun toward Reed. Did you tell her? He had the grace to look sheepish. She called me this morning, said she wanted to rip off the Band-Aid. The elevator dinged, and there she was. My brilliant, fearless daughter, dressed in a professional suit that matched mine, her presentation materials tucked under her arm. Mom, you look like you've seen a ghost. She hugged me, then turned to Reed. Thanks for the heads up, Uncle Reed. Is everyone in the main conference room? Sophia, wait, I started, but she cut me off. Mum, I've got this. You taught me to face challenges head-on, remember? She squeezed my hand. Besides, I've been preparing for this meeting my whole life. We followed her to the conference room, where my parents were waiting. The moment she walked in, my mother gasped. The resemblance between us at 16 was striking. Hi, Sophia said confidently, extending her hand. I'm Sophia Townsend, your granddaughter, and I'm here to save your company. My father stood slowly, taking her hand. You look just like your mother when you kicked her out. Sophia's smile remained pleasant, but her words cut deep. Yes, I know the whole story. I also know you're 3 months from bankruptcy. Your digital infrastructure is ancient, and your market share has dropped 60% in 5 years. She moved to the front of the room, connecting her tablet to the projector. But I also know how to fix it. Would you like to see how? My mother found her voice. You're just a child. A child with an IQ of 165 and a business degree. Sophia pulled up her presentation. Also, I've increased Phoenix's youth market revenue by 200% in the last year. But please, continue underestimating me. It's kind of a family tradition, isn't it? Reed choked back a laugh. I couldn't hide my proud smile. For the next hour, Sophia presented her plan. It was brilliant. A complete digital overhaul, sustainable practices, youth-focused marketing, and ethical business reforms. She answered every question with confidence and grace, even my mother's increasingly desperate attempts to find flaws. My father trailed off, studying the projections. Revolutionary, Sophia suggested. That's what happens when you embrace change instead of fearing it. So, what's it going to be? Are you ready to let the next generation save what the last one nearly destroyed? The room fell silent. I watched my parents exchange looks, 16 years of pride warring with the undeniable truth before them. Finally, my father nodded. We accept. All of it. Good choice. Sophia gathered her things. Mum will draw up the contracts. Oh, and Grandma? She paused at the door. That antique filing system in the basement. It's the first thing to go. As she left, Reed whistled low. Well, that was karma, I finished, watching my daughter's retreating form with pride. In its finest form. A week into the company overhaul, I was reviewing files in my father's office when Reed burst in, his face pale. We have a problem. Another one? I looked up from the stack of documents. What now? He closed the door and lowered his voice. Remember those reports I showed you about Dad cooking the books? It's worse than that. Way worse. How much worse? Reed pulled out a USB drive. I found these hidden in an encrypted folder. Dad's been making deals with shell companies, accepting bribes for government contracts. If this gets out, everyone goes to jail. I finished, my stomach dropping. Does Mom know? Are you kidding? She still thinks using email is too modern. He collapsed into a chair. What are we going to do, Viv? Before I could answer, there was a knock. My mother entered, looking uncomfortable in my presence as always. The auditors are here early. They want to see the books. Reed's face went white. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Tell them I'll be right there. After she left, I turned to Reed. Get Sophia out to the building. Now. I don't want her anywhere near this when it hits the fan. What are you going to do? My job. I grabbed my laptop. Call Aaron. Tell him to get here immediately. The next hour was a blur of activity. I met with the auditors, buying time with carefully worded responses while Aaron rushed over. In the conference room, my father sat with his head in his hands while my mother paced. How could you be so stupid? She hissed at him. All these years of preaching about integrity. I was trying to save our legacy, he shot back. Everything was falling apart. Enough. I slammed my hand on the table. Playing the blame game won't help. Aaron's on his way with our legal team. Until then, nobody says a word to anyone. My mother turned on me. And I suppose you're enjoying this? Watching everything we built crumble? Mom, Reed warned, but I'd had enough. Everything you built? I laughed bitterly. You mean everything you destroyed? I spent 1 week looking at your books, and I found enough fraud to put this whole family in prison. Some legacy. Aaron arrived with his team, and the next few hours were spent in intense discussion. The situation was dire, but not unsalvageable, if we acted fast. We need to self-report, Aaron explained. Come clean before they find it themselves. It'll mean fines, probably significant ones, but it's better than prison time. We'll lose everything, my father whispered. You already lost everything, I said quietly. 16 years ago when you chose pride over family. This is just paperwork catching up. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophia. Mum, why did Uncle Reed send me home? What's going on? I stepped out to call her, but Reed followed me. Viv, wait. There's something else you should know. What now? The reason I helped you, agreed to be your inside source. I've been documenting everything. The fraud, the bribes, all of it. I couldn't live with myself, watching them destroy what Grandpa built. I studied my brother's face, seeing years of guilt and conflict. Why didn't you come to me sooner? Same reason you stayed away, fear. But when I saw what Sophia had become, how you raised her with real values, I knew it was time. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Felicity. News vans outside Townsend Industries. Want me to run interference? It's starting, I muttered, showing Reed the message. He grabbed my arm. Viv, please. Help me fix this. Not for them, for us. For what this company could be. I looked through the glass walls at our parents, huddled with the lawyers. 16 years ago, they'd thrown me out into the rain. Now they were drowning, and I held the life raft. Okay, I said finally, but we do this my way, complete transparency, new management, and they step down, both of them. They'll fight it. Then they can explain their creative accounting to a judge. I straightened my spine. It's time for the next generation to take over, Reed. You, me, and Sophia will rebuild this company the right way. He nodded slowly. What do we do first? First, we tell the truth. All of it. Then we let Sophia implement her plans. Every single one of them. No more old guard, no more shortcuts. And Mum and Dad, I watched them through the glass, these parents who'd shaped my life through their rejection. They get to watch from the sidelines. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what someone loves. It's taking it and making it better than they ever could. Reed squeezed my shoulder. I'll stand with you this time, sis, I promise. I know. I took a deep breath and headed back to the conference room. It was time to start breaking things down before we could build them up again. This time, we'd do it right. You lied to me. Sophia's voice cut through my office like a knife. She stood in the doorway, tablet in hand, displaying news headlines about Townsend Industries' fraud investigation. I was trying to protect you, I said, setting down the legal documents I'd been reviewing. Protect me? She strode in, dropping the tablet on my desk. Mom, I'm not that scared teenager you used to be. I can handle the truth. Sophia. No, let me finish. She pulled up a chair. I've spent the last 3 days analyzing everything. The shell companies, the bribes, all of it. And you know what? I have a solution. I couldn't help but smile despite the tension. Of course you do. But first, she leaned forward, you need to tell me everything. No more secrets. For the next hour, I laid it all out. Reed's evidence, the auditors, the potential consequences. Sophia listened intently, occasionally taking notes on her tablet. So Grandpa's facing possible jail time, she asked, unless we can negotiate a deal. I rubbed my temples. The prosecutors might settle for fines and resignations if we cooperate fully. Good. Sophia stood and started pacing, reminding me so much of myself. Because here's my plan. We don't just clean house, we rebuild it entirely. Transform Townsend Industries into a tech-forward, ethical business incubator. She pulled up a presentation on the wall screen. See, everyone's focusing on the scandal, but I see opportunity. We use this crisis to completely rebrand. The old guard steps down, we implement strict transparency measures, and we focus on helping young entrepreneurs build legitimate businesses. That's actually brilliant, I admitted, studying her projections. I learned from the best. She smiled. But there's one more thing. I want to meet with Grandma and Grandpa, alone. Absolutely not. Mom, she took my hand, you've been carrying their rejection for 16 years. Let me show them exactly what they missed out on. Before I could respond, Reed burst in. The prosecutors are here. They want to talk to everyone. Sophia grabbed her tablet. Perfect timing. Uncle Reed, I need you to set up a meeting with the board for tomorrow morning. Sophia, wait, I started, but she was already heading out. Trust me, Mum. Sometimes the best person to face the past is someone who wasn't damaged by it. The next few hours were a whirlwind of legal discussions. The prosecutors were willing to deal, especially after seeing Reed's evidence and our voluntary disclosure. By evening, we had a framework: heavy fines, my parents' resignation, and a complete corporate restructuring. I found my mother in her office, packing her things. Need help? She jumped, then composed herself. I think I've managed for 30 years without it. Right. I moved to leave, but her voice stopped me. She's remarkable, you know. Sophia, nothing like I expected. What did you expect? The child of a teenage disappointment? She flinched. I deserve that. But watching her today, seeing how she handles herself, you did what I couldn't. You raised her right. No thanks to you. I know. She picked up a photo from her desk, my high school graduation. Your father and I, we were so focused on appearances, on what people would think, we forgot to think about what really mattered. Save it. I turned to go. Sophia wants to meet with you and Dad tomorrow. Don't disappoint her like you disappointed me. Back in my office, I found Felicity waiting with 2 glasses of wine. Rough day? You could say that. I collapsed into my chair. My 16-year-old daughter is about to take over a multi-million-dollar company restructuring. My parents are finally facing consequences, and I'm not sure if I'm winning or losing anymore. Sounds like winning to me. She handed me a glass. You know what the difference is between you and your parents? You learned from your mistakes. They're only now learning from theirs. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophia. Board meeting set for 9 a.m. Grandparents agreed to meet at 8. Don't worry, I've got this. Love you. She really does have this, doesn't she? I showed Felicity the message. Like mother, like daughter. She raised her glass. To the next generation of Townsends, may they be better than the last. I clinked my glass against hers, thinking about tomorrow. Sophia was right. She wasn't the scared teenager I had been. She was stronger, smarter, and unburdened by the past. You know, Felicity said softly, sometimes the best revenge is letting your kids show your parents exactly what they missed out on. I nodded, watching the city lights flicker outside my window. Tomorrow, Sophia would face my parents with all the confidence I never had at her age. And maybe, just maybe, that would be the greatest victory of all. I sat in my office at 7:55 a.m., watching the security feed of the main conference room. Sophia was already there, setting up her presentation with the same methodical precision I'd always admired. My parents entered exactly at 8 a.m. Some habits never change. You shouldn't be watching this, Reed said, closing my laptop. She's my daughter. Who specifically asked for privacy? He pulled up a chair. Come on, let's review the board presentation instead. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Your daughter is everything we should have helped you become. Before I could process that, Aaron rushed in. We have another problem. The board's trying to install their own CEO instead of accepting the restructuring plan. What? Reed stood up. They can't do that. We have a deal with the prosecutors. They're claiming they weren't party to that deal. Aaron spread several documents across my desk. They're meeting right now, trying to vote before the official board meeting. I grabbed my phone to warn Sophia, but Reed stopped me. Let her finish with Mom and Dad. I'll handle the board. How? He smiled grimly. Remember those files I showed you? They don't just implicate Dad. Half the board knew about everything. The next hour was chaos. While Sophia met with our parents, Reed and Aaron confronted the board members with evidence of their complicity. I stayed in my office, feeling strangely detached from it all, until Sophia appeared in my doorway. Mom. Her eyes were red, but she was smiling. You might want to come see this. I followed her to the conference room. My parents stood by the window, my mother actually crying, my father looking years older than he had yesterday. Tell her, Sophia said gently to them. My mother turned, wiping her eyes. We were wrong. Not just about you, but about everything. The way we ran this company, the values we thought we were upholding, we were wrong. Sophia showed us her plans, my father added. She's got your business sense and none of our rigidity. She showed us what this company could become. And, I prompted, not ready to let them off easily. And we'd like to step down completely, my mother said. No conditions, no interference. Let you and Sophia and Reed build something better than we ever could. Before I could respond, Felicity burst in. The board meeting's starting early. They're trying to force a vote. Perfect timing, Sophia said, gathering her things. Everyone ready? Ready for what? I asked. She grinned. The final act, of course. Grandma, Grandpa, you're about to see how a real corporate takeover works. We entered the boardroom to find chaos. Board members were shouting. Reed was calmly presenting evidence of their misconduct, and Aaron stood by with what looked like a team of federal agents. Ladies and gentlemen, Sophia's voice cut through the noise. Before you vote, you might want to see this. She connected her tablet to the display, showing a complex web of transactions. While everyone was focused on the obvious fraud, I found something much more interesting. Every single person in this room, except my mother and uncle, has been engaging in insider trading, and I have proof. The room went silent. So here are your options, she continued, cool as ice. Option 1. You vote to accept our restructuring plan, resign immediately, and cooperate with the authorities. Option 2. Face federal prosecution. Your choice. One of the board members stood up. You can't threaten us. You're just a kid. A kid who just exposed your entire operation, Reed countered. And those federal agents aren't here by accident. I watched in amazement as my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter, systematically dismantled every objection, presented evidence of every crime, and outlined exactly how the company would transform under new leadership. All in favor of accepting the restructuring plan, Aaron called out. The vote was unanimous. As the board members filed out, many already in handcuffs, my mother touched my arm. She's magnificent. We missed so much. Yes, you did. I turned to face them. But she's right about one thing. This company needs to change. Really change. We know, my father said. That's why we're not just stepping down. We're giving our shares to Sophia. In trust, of course, until she's 18. Let her build the company she envisions. I looked at my daughter, who was already deep in discussion with Reed about implementation plans. You're sure? More sure than we've been about anything in 16 years, my mother said softly. Sophia bounded over. Mom, the prosecutors love our transparency plan. They're going to use it as a model for corporate reform. Isn't that amazing? I hugged her tight, feeling the pride and love that my parents had denied themselves all these years. You're amazing. No, she whispered. I just had a better teacher than they did. As we left the boardroom, I couldn't help but think how differently things had turned out from what I'd initially planned. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about redemption, not just for my parents, but for the entire legacy they'd built and nearly destroyed. 1 month after the boardroom showdown, I stood at the podium in the company's main auditorium, facing hundreds of employees. The air buzzed with uncertainty and hope. Change isn't easy, I began, but sometimes it's necessary. Today marks the beginning of a new era for this company. Sophia sat in the front row between my parents, all three dressed in business attire. The sight still felt surreal. Many of you have heard rumors about what happened, I continued. Today we're going to be completely transparent about everything. The fraud, the changes, and most importantly, your futures. I clicked to the first slide, showing the company's new structure. No one is losing their jobs. Instead, we're redistributing resources, modernizing operations, and creating new opportunities. Sophia stood up on cue, joining me at the podium. Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Townsend. You might have heard about me, the teenage granddaughter who helped expose the fraud, but that's not why I'm here today. She clicked to the next slide, showing her incubator program. I'm here because every single person in this room deserves a chance to innovate, to grow, to prove themselves. Just like my mum did 16 years ago when she was thrown out of this very building. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My mother visibly flinched. The old Townsend Industries was built on hierarchy and fear, Sophia continued. The new one will be built on innovation and trust. Starting today, every employee can submit ideas for new projects. The best ones will receive funding and support. Reed joined us next, outlining the new ethical guidelines and reporting procedures. The employees' faces shifted from skepticism to interest, then to genuine excitement as we laid out the transformation plan. Questions? I asked after the presentation. A senior manager stood up. Why should we trust this change? How do we know it's not just another corporate reshuffling? Fair question, Sophia responded. Which is why we're implementing complete transparency. All financial records, all decisions, all projects will be accessible to every employee. No more secrets. Another hand rose. Ms. Townsend, the younger one. Aren't you too young to be making these decisions? Sophia smiled. Age didn't stop my mom from building Phoenix Enterprises after being kicked out at 18. Age didn't stop me from exposing corporate fraud. Why should it stop any of us from building something better? The questions continued for an hour. Through it all, Sophia handled each one with grace and wisdom beyond her years. I watched my parents' faces as they witnessed their granddaughter in action, pride warring with regret. After the meeting, employees lined up to share ideas with Sophia. My mother approached me while I watched from the side. She's a natural leader, she said softly. She is. No thanks to you. Viviana, she hesitated. I know we can never make up for what we did, but watching her today, seeing what you've both become, I've never been more ashamed of my choices. Good. I turned to face her. That shame, hold on to it. Let it remind you every time you want to judge someone for not fitting your perfect mold. Before she could respond, Felicity rushed over with urgent news. The media's outside. They want statements about the transformation plan. I'll handle it, Sophia called out, already heading for the door. No, I said firmly. We do this together. All of us. I looked at my parents. Time to show the world what real change looks like. Outside, reporters swarmed with questions about the scandal, the changes, and the unusual sight of 3 generations of Townsend women standing together. Is it true a teenager exposed the fraud? How does it feel working with the parents who rejected you? What makes you think this transformation will succeed? Sophia stepped forward. Let me tell you a story about second chances. 16 years ago, this company chose pride over family. Today, we're choosing innovation over tradition, transparency over secrets, and most importantly, redemption over revenge. I watched my daughter handle the press with the same confidence she'd shown in the boardroom. My father touched my arm. We were so wrong, he whispered. About everything. Yes, you were. I kept my eyes on Sophia. But she's right about second chances. Don't waste this one. As the questions continued, I saw something remarkable happening. Employees were gathering behind us, showing support. Reed stood proudly beside Sophia, helping field technical questions. Even my mother stepped forward to publicly acknowledge past mistakes. Final question, Sophia announced. Someone asked why they should trust this change. Look around you. See these people? They're not just employees anymore. They're partners in building something new, something better. That's why this will work, because this time, everyone has a voice. The cameras flashed as we stood together. 3 generations of a broken family, slowly healing through the very company that once tore us apart. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And sometimes, that's better than perfect. Back inside, Sophia hugged me tight. Think we convinced them? I looked at the crowd of energized employees, my cautiously hopeful parents, and my proudly beaming brother. I think we did more than that. I think we just started a revolution. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee as I sat across from my mother at the small cafe near Townsend Industries. It had become our weekly ritual. Awkward at first, but gradually evolving into something resembling normal. Sophia's latest project launched today, I said, stirring my latte. The Youth Entrepreneurship Program. I saw the announcement. My mother's hands trembled slightly around her cup. 20 full scholarships for teenage parents who want to start businesses. It's pointed. It's necessary. I met her eyes. And it's healing. The door chimed and Sophia burst in with her usual energy, followed by Reed and my father. They'd been meeting with potential partners all morning. "Mom, Grandma!" Sophia slid into the chair between us. "You won't believe what just happened. Tell them, Uncle Reed." Reed grinned, pulling up a chair. "The Innovation Hub proposal. Every major tech company in the city wants in. They're fighting to partner with us." "With her," my father corrected, looking at Sophia with undisguised pride. "They want to partner with her." The waitress brought more coffee, and I watched my family. Really watched them. My mother, slowly learning to listen instead of judge. My father, finally understanding that legacy isn't about control. Reed, no longer buried under expectations. And Sophia, bringing out the best in all of us. "I have something to show you," Sophia said, pulling out her tablet. She opened a video compilation of employee testimonials about the company's transformation. "Since the changes," one employee said on screen, "I've launched my own project within the company. My ideas matter now." Another employee appeared. "My daughter was inspired by Sophia's story. She's applying for the entrepreneurship program." My mother wiped away tears as the videos played. "We could have had this all along, if we'd just—" "Stop," I said firmly. "No more dwelling on what could have been. Focus on what is." "Speaking of what is," Reed interjected, "have you told them about the award?" Sophia blushed. I was waiting for the right moment. "What award?" my father asked. "The National Youth Leadership Award," Reed announced proudly, "for revolutionizing corporate culture and creating opportunities for young entrepreneurs." My mother reached for Sophia's hand. "When is the ceremony?" "Next week." Sophia squeezed her hand. "I want you all there. The whole family." The word family hung in the air, heavy with meaning. 16 years of pain, pride, and missed opportunities, all transformed by this remarkable girl. "There's something else," my father said quietly. "I've been working with Aaron on the paperwork. We want to legally change the company name." I tensed. "To what?" "Phoenix Townsend Industries," he replied. "To honor both where we came from and where we're going. If that's okay with you, Viviana." The gesture wasn't lost on me. Combining my chosen name with our family name, a bridge between past and future. "Only if Sophia approves," I said, looking at my daughter. "She's the one leading us forward." Sophia pretended to consider it seriously. "Well, the logo would need updating. And the website. And all our branding." She grinned. "I already have designs ready." "Of course you do," Reed laughed. My mother set down her coffee cup. "I've been thinking about the old house. It's too big for your father and me now. Maybe it could be the location for your entrepreneurship program." I stared at her, recognizing the offer for what it was. Not just a building, but a symbol of change. "The house where you kicked me out?" I asked quietly. "The house where we made the biggest mistake of our lives," she corrected. "Let's turn it into something better. Something that helps other young parents instead of judging them." Sophia grabbed my hand under the table, squeezing it gently. I squeezed back, finding strength in her presence. "Okay," I said finally. "But we do it right. Full scholarships, childcare included, mentorship programs. Everything I needed back then." "Everything and more," Sophia agreed. "We'll make it a place of second chances." Reed raised his coffee cup. "To second chances." As we all toasted, I looked around the table again. The wounds weren't gone, they might never fully heal, but something new had grown around them, something stronger than pride, more powerful than revenge. "You know what this means?" Sophia said, her eyes twinkling. "Family dinner, all of us, every Sunday." Don't push it, I warned, but I was smiling. Too late, she replied. I already made reservations for tonight. As we left the cafe, walking together toward the company we'd rebuilt, I felt the last pieces falling into place. Not perfect, but real. Not forgetting, but forgiving. Not erasing the past, but building a better future. My daughter had taught us all what I'd learned alone 16 years ago, that sometimes the greatest triumph isn't in destroying what hurt you, but in creating something beautiful from the ruins.